So congratulations, you are a proud owner of one of our Spellcrafted panties. So this video is to walk you through how to use them. So how exciting. Let me pull up my fun PowerPoint presentation. I'm not great with technology, so give me a second. There we go. Actually, that worked out lovely. All right, let me just move these boxes somehow. Okay, that's good. All right, so I want you to consider these panties as talisman. This is talismanic magic. Very, very exciting. So let me break down how you're going to prepare them, how you're going to activate them, and then some mythos involved to help you manifest your goals with these. So first step, preparing for use is cleansing. Second step is going to be activating the magic through activation rites. And then I am going to again share some manifestation mythos to ensure success for you. All right. I gotta move my face again. Sorry, I'll be moving my face a lot, I feel like. All right, so to spiritually and energetically cleanse any magical object that you're using, there are a variety of ways you can do that. And, magic is not a one size fits all. So I'm giving you a lot of different methods here for you to work with. The most important aspect of cleansing really is going to be intent. So whether you're doing a wash, a smudge, a burial, visualizations, anything to remove that stagnant energy from this object, focusing your will to remove vibrations that aren't going to serve it is probably the number one thing here, because then you're going to want to charge this object with positive energy or intentional energy. Now, the reason this is important is because when we make something, like, for example, when you order something from my shop, I actually prepare and ward that item for shipping. I do a ward to prevent absorption of energy and vibrations from the people handling it, the locations and environments that object is going to be moving through to get to you. Now, these panties are coming from my partner at Printify, which is why I was unable to do that personally, but I'm walking you through how to do that now that they're in your custody or in your charge, so to speak. It's a very simple process. Again, it just requires intent because you don't want to work with an item that has absorbed other people's energy or environmental vibrations, because then it's going to kind of interfere with whatever your drawing effect is going to be for those items. So with the panties, I want you to focus your will. So with whatever cleansing method you choose that I'm going to roll out to you here today, I just want you to focus that intent on, removing any lingering or unwanted energy from the panty. You can connect with the elements if you want. Some people enjoy connecting with earth, air, fire, water to help cleanse the object. Some people choose to connect with deity or ancestors, whatever works best with you, as long as it's symbolic of removal of those energies that aren't going to serve your purpose. So physical cleansing, obviously some items, I deal with artifacts a lot. They might have physical dirt and I have to cleanse them for that purpose. Your panties are not going to have physical dirt, but water cleansing is still an option. You can wash them under running water or in a bowl of blessed water. And when I say blessed water, it's basically you setting a petition in that water. There is no formal rite. It's you telling that water that we are cleansing this item of all unwanted energies and vibrations. So you're going to kind of visualize that negative energy being washed away. You can use soap and water if you prefer. That is very good for vibrational cleaning. If you are also removing physical residue or preparing it for some sort of energetic cleansing. So it works well in those scenarios as well. You can bless water and add some sea salt and fresh herbs and use that to cleanse the item. A recipe I like, I will use kosher salt. Kosher salt is rabbi blessed, so I don't really have to do much. Any kosher item is going to be rabbi blessed. I also like to use resurrection plant water. So, resurrection plants, you can let it soak and then use the water from letting it soak for a day or two to actually cleanse items. So that's an option as well. Other spiritual cleansing methods, visualizations. Some of us work really good with mind matter. You can hold the panties and visualize bright, pure white light flowing from your hands and into them, filling that panty with clean, positive energy or intentional energy. You can also hold them in your hand, close your eyes, and visualize filling it with pure blue light. Now, I would recommend doing that if you're renewing the energy or renewing the intention. For your initial cleansing, I would go with the pure white visualization. Some people prefer smudging or incense. That's great. You can pass the panties through the smoke of burning incense, like a sage bundle, focusing your intention on clearing out unwanted energy. Make sure you do open a window to let the energy flow out, of course, with that smoke. You can use equitable cleansing herbs. I also use rosemary and lavender for purification, so those are options. Burial is an option. Burying an object in the earth, especially if you're an elemental practitioner, is a great way to absorb energy from the planet to allow them to naturally cleanse themselves. Of course, I would, be careful with that because they are panties. You're going to have to wash them after. I would actually go with the salt absorption burial. You can bury the panties in a bowl of salt for a day, allow the salt to kind of absorb any dense negative energy, and then voila, you're good to go through the burial method. Moonlight or sunlight, sun and moon baths. Those are very popular. They're very easy to do. Placing your panties in moonlight, especially during a full moon cycle or an even full sunlight, can help to infuse it with cleansing energies. I would do direct sunlight to burn off negative energy, or moonlight is good for. I would, I think the panties are fine. Some items, it's better to use moonlight just because some items are more sensitive to heat or light, like artifacts, old items. But these panties should be fine either in full direct sunlight or in moonlight. So those are some options. Blessing the object after cleansing it, after you've completed your cleansing ritual, you can bless the object to introduce that new beneficial energy, or what we call charging it, with the intention to support your goals and desires with your selected panty. So that takes us into activation. Activating magical objects involves specific methods. Usually they're command words or physically using the items. So let me break down some common activation methods with items. So there's the command word. So for many items, you can designate a command word, speaking a specific word or phrase to activate the magic. These panties were designed to be use activated, which basically means the item activates simply by being used. So wearing it, holding it, performing specific actions, those are all forms of use activation. You can use spell triggers. So this is often used for items that allow casting a spell by expending charges. You could use your panties for that, although that might get a little bit complex. I'll walk you through some of that later on, but I think just use activation is great for these panties. Now, there is attunement, and if you did go with the goetic panties, Asmodeus or Paimon, you may want to look at attunement activation. Magical items, especially when they're connected to deity, do sometimes require a period of what we call attunement. This is kind of a shorter, long rest to activate their full power. So after cleansing and blessing, you could go through attunement and let them rest for 2 to 3 days. While each day you kind of set the intention for that bridge you're building with Asmodeus or Paimon. But again, for those of you using the Solomonic panties, money drawing, love drawing, lust driving, use activation, and even after attunement, use activation is great for the goetic panties as well. But here, I wanted to give you a couple of different options. So breaking down the panties, right now I only have 4. I do plan on expanding this line, but I'm trying to keep it simple here at first. Obviously, there are the love and lust drawing panties. Now, when you wear these, they will have an open drawing effect. So where you're putting yourself, the environments, the situations, the interactions, it is going to draw from those sourcing angles. Now, you can target them. meaning you can add, and I know this is going to sound goofy, but I've done it and it works. Say you're going out on a date and you really want to ramp up the lust and the love with this individual, you can target those panties for the evening, and you would do that by adding a personal effect or photo in the panties. Some people make a little pouch. Some people just slip them right on in there, whatever it is that you're using. It is a way to target that energy. So prosperity, money drawing, and abundance is the second panty. Again, this is going to have an open drawing effect. So wherever you're going, it's going to draw from sourcing, other people, situational factors, environmental factors. Wearing them to a bank, you're applying for a loan or a credit card. You're buying lottery tickets, you're gambling at a casino. You're at work, wearing them at work, if you're going for a promotion or a bonus or a wage increase. If you are waiting on an inheritance, and you're in that family environment, these are going to draw from any sourcing angles that have that money, abundance, and prosperity aspect. Can they be targeted? Yes. I would target them as a quick cast goal, which basically means just adding a petition. So say, for example, excuse me, say, for example, you're going to the bank to apply for a small personal loan. You can write a petition out for that purpose, specifying the amount, the date, the location, and slip those in the panties or into the pouch that you make for the panties. If you want to direct the energy specifically to that intent in that time period that you're going to be in that bank or facility. And then after you leave, I would remove that petition. That's called a quick cast. Then we have the goetic. The first one is Asmodeus. So Asmodeus is connected to lust, gambling, disrupting relationships, usually through infidelity. He is a very powerful goetic figure. He does have influence over human sexual desires. He is at times associated with chaos, but he does also help to build things. Having a relationship with Asmodeus provides opportunities for you to grow in power through your actions. So he is associated with things like order, stability, providing people with their place in the world. Sometimes this is within the context of lust and indulgence. So a lot of times Asmodeus works with politicians, business owners who are, looking to be very monetarily affluent, or, the sex industry. Asmodeus is very big in the sex industry as well. He is also a very powerful figure with knowledge, especially secrets and treasures. So a relationship there is very ideal in terms of exposure and awareness work, in terms of finding resources that will benefit you. He does have a playful, mischievous side. Usually it's harmless pranks, nothing major. He is not afflicted with narcissism like you'll read about with a lot of the other goetics. He does, again, bring that sense of order, structure, and law in. So, justice works will sometimes include Asmodeus. So going to court, you would want to wear these Asmodeus panties. In some mythos, again, very good natured, very humorous, likes to play, lots of playful pranks. He's not purely some, malicious God. Every deity that you read about, you're going to read, depending on who's putting out that information, either purely the bad or purely the good. It's hard to find texts that really represent them well in both lights. He does have a vast knowledge of lore, so he is great for divination, and locating things. So Asmodeus, I do have a divination altar that I work with Asmodeus on, and I can tell you he's wonderful to work with for divination. Fulfillment through indulgence. Even though he's associated as a demon of lust, and remember the word demon has really been manipulated over the years. The word demon is neutral spirit. So it's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. So, and that's going, back to the original, Greek Roman text. But anyways, moving on. He does represent indulgence and the exploration of desires, which is how some people find fulfillment in life, within limits. So if you are looking to live a more indulgent life, grow a business, have more monetary influence and affluence, definitely, anything with justice, um, fun, awareness, exposure work, Asmodeus is your goetic. So, Paimon. Paimon is very interesting. This is a masculine that is presented as a feminine in the Goetic. And so King Paimon helps by providing, again, hidden knowledge. He is associated with arts, philosophy, sciences, so lots of astrophysical magic, granting one dignity. So, really lifting you up. Again, politicians, lordships, right? He does assign familiar spirits. So these can be transient spirits at times to help you in kind of revealing hidden treasures and answers that you're maybe seeking for whatever purpose. He is very connected to the elements. So if you're an elemental witch, working with the four elements, wind, water, and earth are his wheelhouse. Other things that Paimon assists with, again, divination, questions posed to him. He is truthful in answers, explaining the nature of the mind. Again, the mind is a very powerful instrument, and we don't fully give it its the credit due. Like the mind can open doors and close them, and so Paimon is associated with those opportunities. Um, you know, good favor, good reputation. Paimon is involved with that. So especially when you're looking for authority and respect. Familiars, if you need spirit, whether it's animus or transient to assist you, especially if you're teaching or learning. These familiars usually that Paimon brings to the table can help adjust outcomes in our lives, so kind of change the course of things. Um, so again, a big one I would say with Paimon is truthful communication. Um, he can be a little intimidating at first to work with, but he is one that values structure and precision. And as long as you are working in a structured manner with him, you're going to be just fine. Some suggested reading. Let me move this out of the way so you can see the full list. If you are using, well, any of the panties, because, we have the two goetic panties and the other two panties do use Solomonic magic. All four of them are talismanic in nature. So I always suggest, learning more. Some people already come to the table having a good arsenal of information. Some people are just, they're in the early stages of their spiritual evolution. So these are about 11 or 12 books I put here that I feel you would benefit from if you are using the Goetic panties or the Solomonic panties. It really kind of breaks down what you're doing, why, where it connects historically. I mean, some of these are pulled from 12th and 13th century grimoires, such as the Red Dragon, Honorius, the Picatrix, the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum. One of my favorites here, if you can only pick one, would be the Stellus Daemonum. That book has just amazing information in it. It really paints a very good picture of Solomonic practice, Goetic practice, and activation work. So that is just a recommendation, of course, for me, helping with, you to kind of grow your path or your practice. All right, so some tips and tricks. The first thing I want to talk about is manifestation. Manifestation isn't about waiting around. You have to act on the small nudges that are put in front of you. Action is going to be the bridge between dream and delivery. So your goal and acquisition. You need to combine your belief, your focus, and your action because the universe is a mirror. What you put out is what you're going to collect. I always preface this in my work is that obsession will kill attraction. Obsessing on an outcome will start closing doors. You need to set your intentions and then detach from it because that's when the winds come in, right? That's when the winds arrive. Journaling your blessings, no matter how small they are, because gratitude is going to keep you focused on abundance instead of lack. And we all have ups and downs in life. If we can stay grounded and grateful even in the downs, that opens doors to beautiful, abundant futures. So that's an important aspect of manifestation. Don't just visualize. I want you to make mental movies. We always talk about visualization, guided imagery. I want you to make a mental movie. I want you to replay the film of your win, your acquisition every night, and edit those scenes in your movie as your goals evolve. Now, the universe over time is going to match the script. It's going to match the script of this movie. Then there's affirmations. Affirmations are programming reality. Words are spells. As simple as that. Speak your goals out loud every day. Repeat them until your subconscious accepts them as facts. Affirmations prime your brain's reticular activating system to filter for opportunities. This is science, you guys. Magic and science, I really believe, are the same thing. But the thing with manifestation too is don't just see it, feel it as real. The mind attracts exactly what it focuses on with absolute certainty. So the mind is so powerful, you guys. It really truly is. You have to align your mind to your work. Now, for those of you who like quantum magic, my radionics lovers, I love radionics. I love astrophysical magic. Here's the thing. Here's a shortcut for you guys. Step one, enter a theta brainwave state. This is going to be a deep meditation sound frequency. So, for those of you that have radionics devices, you can just select a theta brainwave state from there. Those of you who use mind machines like the Casina, those are already pre-programmed in. Make sure you use the goggles on closed eye mode because the LEDs are rapid fire for those theta brainwave states. Step two, apply coherent intentions, which is focus, thought, and emotion, right? Once you're in that theta brainwave state, this is when you use that mind movie we just talked about. That's your focus, thought, and emotion to a movie in your mind of what you want to manifest. What does this do? This is going to collapse probabilities into the reality you choose, right? We all have all these probabilities at any given moment of any given day. And what happens is the choices we make, the decisions we make, these realities, these probabilities, they collapse into one. And that's what we're living, right? So you want to collapse probabilities into the reality that you want, the one that you're working towards, not just the one that is going to occur because either you're not taking action or because you're not, focusing appropriately, or maybe you're stuck in a negative mindset. I want you to think of it like tuning a radio, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're tuning your radio. Each frequency is a different reality. And I apologize that it looks like I kind of made these letters dark. But each frequency is basically a different reality. So your mind isn't just listening, it's selecting the station, right? It's selecting the reality. This is physics of consciousness. Physics is magic, you guys. So here's the other thing. I also, with radionics, if you're a quantum, energy worker or practitioner, memory isn't just storage, it's a portal. So, working with these panties, I think combining it with the quantum radionics is excellent if you keep these kind of one-offs in mind. When you revisit a memory, you re-enter it. This means basically that the past isn't always fixed and the present can be rewritten. So that puts us in a position where we are biological transmitters of consciousness, right? We are energy, experiencing frequency, projected into form. Reality is going to be feedback. Belief is going to be the input. Change your input and the program is going to shift. You are the projector, not the film. You change the lens and the scene changes. So radionics people, it's going to be probably a little bit easier for you if you're applying these practices because basically that talisman, those panties, your talismanic device is going to be charged at that frequency. You just need to maintain it. Oops, hang on, we're not done. Okay, my astrophysical casters. I wanted to break it down into bite-sized chunks for all my different types of practitioners. Again, let's talk about some astrophysical magic aspects here that you need to keep in mind when using the panties. Matter isn't solid. It's light, slowed down by thought. Everything you see is crystallized ideas, right? Atoms are not the building blocks. Consciousness is. All energy is rhythmic. Nothing is still. Everything vibrates, breathes, and pulses that exists. I mean, the rock on the floor, the pillow, everything. Even solid walls are frozen waves of energy, right? You need to learn the rhythm and then you master energy. Here's the thing with duality. Duality is an illusion. And if you are an astrophysical caster using these panties, make sure that you are tuned into this because when we're using goetic deity or we're using Solomonic high ceremonial stuff like with the money drawing and the love drawing, we can really get kind of sucked into the duality aspect. Duality is an illusion. This whole good versus evil, life versus death, light versus dark, these are all opposites that are just two ends of one spectrum. It's the same thing, right? The universe doesn't fight, it balances, and matter is born from light. So, this gets, can be very, very heady and very, very complex. But the reason I wanted to break it down for you guys, and let me move this so you can actually see some of this that I wrote on here. Oops, hang on, my bad. Is because the headier, oops, sorry again, the headier your practice, the headier, like those of us who take a physics angle with our magic, we do have a tendency to get caught up in things like duality. So that's why I'm kind of beating this bush to death. But atoms are spiraling light compressed into form, right? And when compression stops, matter disappears. And death is simply light returning home. It's the same thing with electricity. Electricity is alive. It's not just electrons moving, but it's a spiraling, breathing force. And if used correctly, it could unlock limitless energy. And that's what these panties are. I want you to look at them as spiraling light, right? They're atoms, energetic atoms that are infused into these panties. When we talk about space, and I'm not talking about just outer space, inner space, sitting in our apartments, space is never empty. It's never a void. It's a living ocean of potential energy. And these panties are designed as talismans to attach itself to the energy around us, right? And when we talk about energy, that it's the womb of matter itself, right? If tapped, scarcity in our lives would vanish. Same thing with health. I'm comparing it to health now because health is a rhythm, right? And disease comes in when that rhythm is disrupted. Same thing with acquisition. If we need money and for some reason we just can't grab onto it, there's a disrupted rhythm there. These panties as talisman are going to correct the rhythmic disruption. It is going to fix the rhythm. They are going to restore the body's natural frequency. So, that would be restoring health, restoring money flow, restoring love flow, lust flow, all these things, they're restored to the correct rhythm. And again, time is not spiral. It's not a line. Oh, I'm sorry. Time is spiral. It is not a line. I also want you to kind of, and I know this is very heady, but the past, present, and future coil around each other, right? Every moment exists simultaneously. So these panties are working from a talismanic angle of past energy, present energy, and future energy that's seated that just hasn't occurred yet because they all exist, right? They all take space. But our mind, creates reality. Your thoughts are not private, they're blueprints. Quite simply, I gotta move me again so you guys can see this. Sorry. And your beliefs in your mind are going to shape that matter in your environment that we're talking about, right? That visible matter. And if you change your thoughts, you do change your world in this way. And why am I breaking it down like this? I am breaking it down because I have different types of clients that come to me and they practice in different ways. And I want to make sure I'm crossing the T's and dotting the I's for everybody. And if you have questions, if I rush through this, definitely email me. I can explain this more in detail. I'm just kind of hitting some important pulse points here for anybody who is going to be using these panties. All right. So if you want to learn more, we do have a YouTube, Grave Intentions Goods. We're always posting educational and informative spiritual practice and belief structure, deep dive videos where I talk about all sorts of things, especially if you're interested, like in talismanic magic, poetic magic, Solomonic ritual magic. All these things I kind of briefly, just kind of jumped through today. I have lots of videos on there. They're usually an hour or two long, but they kind of describe these things. I do a deep dive on them. So that's free to anybody who's interested. We also have a Patreon. You can subscribe to our ongoing EDU program there. We have like some wonderful dream tending and dream work Zooms. Sacred Sexuality is a series we do. We do a muse series. So there's a lot of wonderful options there. But I just want to thank you. And again, I'm here for you. If you have any issues with cleansing, activating, or, structuring your manifestation intents, definitely reach out to me. I'm here for you. But I'm very excited that you have one of these panties and stay magical. Oh, wait, I haven't even shut it off yet. All right, guys, stay magical.